Hello everyone, my name is Sean Walker and I'm a Principal Product Excellence Architect here at ServiceNow. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the loaner asset request for hardware asset management. The content for this video was prepared by Johnny Hughes, a Product Success Architect here at ServiceNow. So today I'm going to give you an overview of the loaner asset order. I'm going to talk about creating that order as well as the different stages involved. And then we'll talk a little bit about stockrooms and service locations before I jump into a demo of the loaner asset request flow. The loaner asset request flow is a flow within hardware asset management that allows your end user to request an asset or a consumable for a short period of time. So if you think of it like an end user needing a laptop for a conference, or maybe they need a projector for that same conference, they can request it for a short period of time. If no loaners are available when they're requesting it, they will be placed on a wait list. And that wait list really gives the asset manager the visibility into the demand for that location, and they can make a decision on what they want to do, either deny the request or make more loaner equipment available to the users. So when the user's requesting the loaner device, they launch the flow from the service catalog. By default, it's going to specify them as the user, but it's also going to give you the ability to request on behalf of another user. It's going to ask for the location that's being requested from and what specific model you're looking for. And most importantly, it's going to ask for a start and an end date, and those are really important for the flow. In addition, you're going to need to make sure you justify why you need that loaner asset. One of the key things is that within the stockroom, you need to make sure that all assets are specified as loaner assets so they can be available to the flow. So in this case, you need to make sure that the asset is in a state of in stock, but also that the asset function is set to loaner. So you can see all the different loaner asset orders through the hardware asset management workspace on the inventory dashboard, and that's where the asset manager can go in and see all the different requests with things like their start date and end date. When they go into the request, they have the ability to specify which asset and see what those different parameters are, like the justification, etc. And then from within the loaner asset order itself, there will be the various loaner asset tasks depending on which stage they are within the flow. So the different stages of the flow goes through is the very first one, which is the prepare task. And that's where the person fulfilling the loaner asset request is going to specify which asset is going to be loaned out. So they may have 5 different laptops of the same model. The technician's going to go ahead and assign a specific asset to this request. And this prepare task is generated 2 days before the start date, which gives the technician enough time to get that device operational. This value can be changed, but by default, it's 2 days. Once the prepare task is complete, the deploy task will kick off, and the deploy task is really the technician giving the end user the laptop, whether it's shipping it or whatever they happen to do to get the end user that device. That is the deploy task. And from there, the request just stays open for whatever length of time the user has requested it for. And then 1 day before the end date that was specified on the request, the reclaim task is triggered, and this is a reminder to the technicians that they need to get that asset back in their possession. And this task will stay open until they actually get that. So that's really important if you think about these longer term loaners where people may have it for a month or 2, and the technician may forget that it has been loaned out or who it's been loaned out to. This task will automatically trigger a day before it's due and will remind them that they need to reclaim that particular asset. So as I mentioned earlier, when the loaner asset flow is triggered, it's taking a look at what loaners are available in the requesting user's local stockroom. So not all users are going to have a local stockroom. So if you think of people like remote users. They're not going to have a local stockroom at their home, or perhaps they're in a building where there is no local stockroom. So that's where I recommend setting up service locations. And what service locations will allow you to do is to specify one stockroom that will service multiple locations. So if you think of it as perhaps a campus at a university where you have a central stockroom that services multiple buildings within that campus, or you have a central stockroom, say in one city, that will service multiple offices across the city or even across the state. And so when the user's requesting the loaner, it's actually looking at their local stockroom, which in this case is being serviced by the main stockroom. So they'll see the list of all the loaners that are available in that service location or centralized stockroom. So how you create service locations is you go into the stockroom itself, and there's a service location tab there where you can go through and specify which locations this stockroom is servicing. So this particular location is in Montreal, and you can see that 2 different service locations have been added for different addresses in Montreal. So if a user from, say, the first location requests a laptop, it's actually going to look at for the loaner laptops in the Canada East stockroom, not their local stockroom. So now I'm going to jump into a Zurich instance of ServiceNow and walk through the loaner asset flow. Okay, so I've logged into a Zurich instance of ServiceNow, and I've navigated to the hardware asset management workspace. So what I'm going to do now is walk you through setting up some loaner assets. So you're an organization who's just starting out, wanting to get started with loaners. The first thing you're going to need to do is specify which assets you're going to use as loaners. So I'm going to navigate to my inventory workspace, and I'm going to go to my stockroom. So I'm going to be today setting up loaners for the Edmonton, Canada area for the offices located there. So if I go to the Edmonton stockroom, I can see that I've got 28 hardware assets, and I've got no loaners set up for this location. So as an asset manager, I'm going to specify some of the assets that I want to use as loaners. So if we come in here, we can take a look at, say, we'll just group this by model. We're going to make a couple loaners per model, let's say. And let's go to this 5570, and we're going to make this loaner, this laptop, a loaner laptop. So you can see here I've changed the asset function to loaner, and the asset state is in stock, and the substate is available. So I'm going to save that and make this loaner available for this location. Now I can do this on some other ones. So say there's another one down here, a rugged, and we can also see it's in stock available, and we are going to change the asset function to loaner and save that. So now when I come over here to hardware loaner pool and I refresh this, I can see that I have now 2 loaners available in this location. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to impersonate one of the users I've set up for this. I'm going to pretend I'm a user in an office in Edmonton. So office 1 user, and I'm just going to impersonate this user, and I'm going to submit a loaner asset request. So the loaner asset request is part of the service catalog that comes when it comes with HAM. So you can go underneath the asset lifecycle and start the loaner asset request. So this is the default out-of-the-box form that comes with hardware asset management, and we can see a requesting for me as the Office 1 user. It gives my location of Office 1, but it says there's no models available at this location. So it means there's no loaners available in my office. So if you remember from the presentation, one of the things that really helps things like the loaner asset pool flow is service locations. So this particular user, Office 1 user, has no stockroom at that location. So let's take a look at that. So I'm just going to end this impersonation here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly take a look at and show you the locations that are set up in this instance. So the locations we have set up, where we have the cities in Edmonton, we can see here we've got the primary location at Edmonton, but we also have these 3 offices that are located in different parts of Edmonton. So if I just added, say, the address here, where it is here, street, let's add that in here, and we can see what it says. And you can see that these are all different streets. So Office 1 is here, 2 is here, 3 is here. So they're all different locations. So that user I was requesting was at this 123 Smith Street, but there is no stockroom at that location. So what I'm going to want to do is set up the stockroom. We have a centralized warehouse in Edmonton that services this location and all of the other locations within Edmonton. So I can see here, let's just quickly look the details, right? Its location is Edmonton for this stockroom. And what we can do is we can set up now the service locations and say, I want this stockroom to service the Office 1, and I can do 2 and 3 locations, and I could add all 3 of those. And so basically this Edmonton stockroom is going to service all 3 of these locations. I could also do it a little bit different, and I could also, if you take a look here at this Edmonton location, you can see that all of these 3 offices are children of the parent Edmonton. So I could, when I'm setting up my stockroom service locations, I could just have this stockroom service the Edmonton location as well, instead of each individual ones of these offices. So basically what this means is that this stockroom, Edmonton stockroom, is going to service anything in the location and all of its children locations. And that will take care of servicing all of the Office 1 locations. So now if I come back in and I impersonate my user here, I'm pretending to be that Office 1 user again. And I come back in again to my service catalog. And I launch my loaner asset request. I can see that that error is now gone. So now when I click on models, which models do I have available to request, we can see those 2 models that we set up before. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up this Dell Rugged Pro, and I want it to start tomorrow. And I want to return it, let's say, on the 7th. We're just going to put a justification testing here just so we can get it submitted. And we're going to go ahead and submit that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly impersonate a different user. I'm going to impersonate one of those other users. Oops. The Office 2 user, for example. And I'm just going to submit a second request, and I'm going to make it exactly the same as the Office 1 user, just so we can see or show how the wait list, etc. would work. So we're going to go ahead here. We can see again it's picking those same models because it's being serviced by the same location. So I'm going to pick the same thing and pick the same start dates and same end dates. Just let's say these 2 users are going on to a conference or something like that. And they both need a laptop. So now we should have 2 requests in the system. So let's go take a look at what happens in the system. So I'm going to go back to the hardware asset workspace, and we're going to come into the inventory section and take a look at the loaner asset orders. So here I can see that there are the 2 requests that I submitted earlier. You can see one's for the Office 1 user, one's for the Office 2 user. So as an asset technician or as an asset analyst, I'm going to come through and I'm going to look at fulfilling these particular orders. Now, since they specified the start date of tomorrow, the prepare task has already been submitted, or already been created, I should say. So we can take a look at the loaner tasks here. There's that prepare task that was automatically created because, as I said, like what'll happen, the system will automatically trigger the prepare task 2 days before the loaner start date. So the start date's tomorrow. The task was already prepared. If the start date had been in a couple days from now, this particular loaner asset would be in a new state. So it wouldn't actually have triggered that prepare task already. So we're going to go here and we're going to take a look at this prepare task and we're going to see what we can do. So the first thing we have to do is allocate an asset since there hasn't been one automatically allocated. Just this particular demo is a little tricky to do since everything's time-based and we're doing this all in a couple of minutes. So we're going to go ahead here and specify the asset we want to assign to this particular loaner request order. And we're going to go ahead and we can again track our work if we wanted to. So another way to capture TOI. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and close this task. And we'll see automatically that the second task for deploy kicks off. And so this is where we're actually going to give the laptop to the end user. So we're going to go ahead and give this laptop to the end user early. And we're just going to go ahead and we can put in our notes here. Deployed asset, our loaner. And we can go ahead and complete this one, and we can just close that task. And there we go. So now the loaner request is going to sit here. Now you notice the reclaim task has not started yet, and that's because the end date has not been reached yet. So on this order, the return date is not until November 7th. It's October 28th. So of course it's not going to kick off. What'll happen is it will kick off the reclaim task the day before. So on November 6th, it will kick off that reclaim task. So it will move and create this automatically at that time. So this loaner request is pretty much done right now because that loaner's out there in the field. There's nothing it's doing its thing. It's out there, etc. So now we're a technician and we would take a look at this next request that's come in. And we see that they've requested the same model as the previous person, and we only had one of those in inventory. So I have nothing here to allocate to this particular request. So what I can do is, what the system would do automatically is it would waitlist this particular request because there's no assets available. So that's something that happens automatically in the system when the scheduled jobs run. Again, since we're running this demo here in real time, it's hard to get those to trigger automatically since they're timed events. So we're just going to go ahead and we can actually place this particular item on the wait list, and now we can see, in our loaner asset orders that this particular asset's been waitlisted. And so this is a good way for asset managers to see if they have a whole bunch of requests. If they have a lot of stuff that's sitting on in a wait list because they've had lots of requests for devices at the same time, they might want to think about increasing how many assets are in their loaner pool, etc. Okay, so let's pretend that this user doesn't need this laptop anymore. So how do we get that back, right? We don't have the reclaim task. It's not been triggered because the date hasn't been reached. But what we can do is we can actually reclaim this asset early. And so this is what it would look like, the reclaim task. You'd have very much the similar types of things that you need to populate on the reclaim task. So what we can do here is this asset been returned? Yes. Is the asset functional? We'll say yes. And what stockroom is it going into? It's going to go into the Edmonton side, and what day was it reclaimed. So this is all things that will happen on the reclaim flow for you, or form for you. And now we can see that that's closed complete. And we can see this has been closed here. And if we take a look at our these orders here, we can see that it's now completed. Okay, and so that's how you go through and loan out a laptop and reclaim a laptop. Now I can go ahead and take this off of waitlist myself and automatically deploy it to the user if we want. Take it off the waitlist. Now I can specify which asset I want to assign to this user, and I can go ahead and close complete that. And it will go ahead and I can deploy this laptop to that user instead. So that is the loaner asset request. Sorry, one more thing I should show before I end this is you can also see some of the asset tasks that have been generated for loaners in the asset tasks. So under asset estate, asset tasks, we can take a look at any of the loaner tasks that are open right now. We can see right now there's this deploy loaner asset to user task that's open. So these tasks can be fulfilled if you're assigning to a group, for somebody to go ahead and pick up these different tasks, so you can have your technicians all kind of looking at their tasks in the same location. So in this video, I give you an overview of the loaner asset order. We talked about stock rooms and service locations and creating a loaner asset order, and then the different stages of a loaner asset. And then I went into a demo and showed you how to create that loaner asset order, set up service locations, and how to go through the different stages of that loaner asset order. For more information, you can go to the ServiceNow product documentation website and look for loaner asset orders, where you can find a really good one on prepare, deploy, and reclaim your loaner assets. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.